Hi guys, it's Sarah, and today I'll be doing books that made me emotional. Usually, this tab would go under books that made me cry, but since I'm not really much of a book crier, I just decided to go with books that overall made me feel so many emotions. I mean, I've only cried in about 5 books, so I thought, why not lengthen this video a little bit by telling you about the books that made me emotional and why they made me emotional. So if you don't want spoilers, because I am gonna spoil people, I'm sorry, it's just I really want to talk about why I feel this way. So if you don't want to be spoiled, bye. Just go read the books and then we can talk about all my books. But first, I keep playing this necklace. I actually got my necklace from Wish.com, and if you don't see it, it's the necklace that Stefan gives Elena on Vampire Diaries. But we all know it's Catherine's necklace first. But Elena's necklace, yes. I'm not a Stelena shipper. I'm Delena all the way. All the way. So, no Delena, but I did like the necklace, so I got it. And it was only on Wish.com for $1. So if you want a replica of Elena's necklace, Wish.com, type in Vampire Diaries. It's got this, and it's got Catherine's necklace that she wore to the dance in season 2, and it's got Bonnie's amber necklace that Caroline thought was hideous. It's got a lot of jewelry. I also got this cool phone case right here of Ian Somerhalder as Damon. So yeah, I was happy with my purchases, as well as the posters that I already showed you guys in my other videos. I have Daenerys Stormborn from Game of Thrones, and I have all the Pretty Little Liars here in one of the most beautiful posters I have seen of them. So yeah. Okay, so let's get started, since I've been talking about my stuff for 2 minutes. Okay, books that made me emotional. Okay, the first one on my list was Last Sacrifice by Richelle Mead. It's not, didn't make me as emotional as Spiritbound did. Not Spiritbound. As Shadows Kiss did. But it still hit me hard. Like how Dimitri was trying to keep Rose at arm's length, and then when they finally had sex, I remember just jumping up and down for joy because I didn't like her with Adrian. I really didn't. Adrian was an okay guy, but I didn't feel as if he was her guy, you know? So whenever Rose and Dimitri got back together, I felt myself feeling all giddy and happy. I didn't cry. I didn't cry in this book. Now, when Rose gets shot, that was something that almost brought tears to my face. I was all like, oh no, Alyssa, please kill her. That's why I didn't cry. I thought, Alyssa could just save her, So I didn't cry about it. I was just content about it. And then whenever their bond breaks, I was actually kind of happy about that because Rose deserves her own life outside Alyssa. So I was happy about that bond breaking. But yeah, this book definitely made me cry. Definitely had a few tears. Okay, next book. The number 2 book that actually did make me cry. Like I said, I'm not really a book crier, but I did cry with this one. And that is Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. The reason why I cried in this one is a pretty obvious one. We all know Prim dies in this one. She was the reason why Katniss went to the games in the first place to protect her sister. And the fact that they would kill her sister off and make this all seem like it wasn't worth it, that just really made me bawl. That and the fact that Gale, just goes away at the end. He marries, and Katniss doesn't know what happened to him. She hears things about him, but she doesn't know. That really pissed me off. I didn't like that. This book, not a very sufficient way to end the story that I liked. And I'm not a Peeta shipper. I'm sorry. I don't like Peeta. Honestly, and there's a couple reasons why I don't like Peeta. The first being that everyone says, oh, well, he saved Katniss when she was going hungry. Well, what? But Gale helped teach her to hunt things, If you read why I'm a Gale shipper, that's why. It's like, okay, Peeta saved her once, guys. Just once. Maybe twice in the games. But it's not, a sufficient love story for me to actually go, oh my god, they're so awesome together. I didn't like them together, I'm sorry. I'm not a Peeta and Katniss shipper. That's why this book made me emotional. I didn't like it. But it did make me cry when Prim died because, I liked Prim. Even if she was a short thing. That and, Finnick dying. Finnick dying just pissed me off. Now when President Snow died, yeah, I was happy about that. When that one chick, what was her name? I forgot what chick actually died. It was a chick that was running District 13. I don't remember her name. Comment her name down below if you remember. Yeah. I don't remember her name, but when she died, I was all like, whatever. I don't know why, but why you killed her, I can't remember. Okay, this one is a little bit of an oldie, but it still brought me to tears, and that is because of the main subject matter of this book, and it's not something that a lot of people write about, but it's still something that makes us all emotional. And this one is Baby Alicia is Dying by Lauren McDaniel. Lorleen McDaniel? Is that her surname? Lorleen McDaniel. Basically what this book is about this one girl who volunteers, and this volunteers, I don't know where she's volunteered at. She takes care of this baby, and she later finds out this baby is sick. She has HIV from her mother using drugs and whatnot. And this book made me really emotional because no one likes to think about babies having only so long to live because of something their mothers did. No one really likes to talk about that stuff. No one really wants to read about that stuff too. But I thought it was a very good book. Very sad too. Like, I don't like it when babies die. I hate it. It was sad. It was emotional, and that just, yeah, that was sad. It made me cry when the baby died, and it made me pissed off that they thought that Desi had contacted HIV from actually taking care of this baby, but she didn't. I mean, HIV is not contagious. Well, at least the form that the baby had. And it just really pissed me off how ignorant some people were about it. How they're like, ew, gross, you're taking care of a baby who has HIV, so you probably have it. That pissed me off a little bit. It's all like, she's a baby. Her mother gave her up. She's dying of HIV. Could you please just fuck off? She's helping this baby. This baby, just because it has an illness doesn't mean it's any less of a baby and any less of a person and any less of a human being. So that book really made me emotional, and I really didn't like some of the people in it. I really despised how some people were actually saying those things to her. Saying those things behind her back. It was stupid, for one. So no, I was pissed off at that book. Okay, the next book is also an old one, but I love this author. I read almost all, I actually think I have read all of her books, actually. And all of them are tearjerkers, but only a select few made me really just so much emotions. And that is Angels in Pink by Lauren McDaniel Holly Story. This is the third installment in the Angels in Pink series. Holly Story, the reason why it made me cry like a baby was because Hunter dies in it. Hunter, Holly's brother, dies, and he's Raina's boyfriend, and we've spent, like, the past 2 books getting to know him and getting to love him as a person, because he's such a good and wholesome person on the inside, and he dies just for being at the wrong place in the wrong time, and he just gets shot, and it's like his death is in the middle of this book, so we get to actually see the emotions of how his sister feels and how his girlfriend feels and how the other friend feels. Like, she feels bad because she can't really relate to her friend like her friends do. Like, Reina was his girlfriend and Holly was his sister, but she was just, he was just someone she knew. And she feels guilty about that, It's a really sad story. I liked it, though. They handled the emotions really well with losing a family member. So that's why I adored this book and why it made me cry. Like, I was actually tearing up because how long Reina takes to, I know I say a lot, I'm sorry. How Reina copes with it, that made me bawl like a baby. How everyone finds out how he dies. Like, I bawled when Holly had to. It was either Holly or Kathleen who had to go tell Reina that her boyfriend had died, and Reina just looks at her and says, "Stop, this is just a joke. He can't really be dead," and that made me bawl like a baby because I've had that feeling before. It's a horrible feeling. You don't think someone could die, but they do. But people do. And it's really sad because he had his whole life ahead of him, too. Only to get it taken away so fiercely. Okay, next book that made me cry, made me bawl like an emotional baby, would be Sweet Reckoning by Wendy Higgins. There is only one good reason why this book made me actually bawl, and that was, I think her name is Marnie. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Marnie. You say that name. Was Marnie's death, like, what happens is they can get pregnant or they die. And she's pregnant and then she gets childbirth and she dies in this book. And it's sad, and I really bawled when she died because it is the third book in the series and she was one of my favorite characters. And it was an emotional roller coaster ride. It was just, you know what I mean? It's one of those, you don't want these characters to die. I mean, they actually do good at finishing up her story, even though she is dead, but still a heart wrencher. It didn't make me cry, but it made me emotional. Now, the next book is an older book. It made me bawl like a baby. I think this is my top bawl like a baby pick, besides two of them I see in here. And that is Garden of Angels by Lorraine McDaniel. What this one's about is it's set in the 70s, I want to say. Yeah, the 70s. It's set in the 70s, and her mother has just developed breast cancer. And it's emotional because I was going through an emotional time with my great-grandmother having cancer as well. And I believe I read this book around the time she actually died from it. So I was looking for comfort and anything to help me understand this horrible disease, and to help me understand what cancer is. And I read this book, and it made me really emotional, especially whenever her mother dies of breast cancer, and then when we find out later that Jason dies from a motorcycle accident. Those made me emotional. The whole story made me emotional, how a family dealt with it, how Darcy is trying to grow up while still dealing with her mother's cancer and dealing with the grown-up stuff and her sister's wedding. It was just really emotional book, and it's one of my top book cries. I mean, I read it when I was younger. It made me bawl like a baby, and it was a book that made me fall in love with reading. This was my first book that I ever read, which explains why it's so worn out. So this one, if you haven't read it, I would suggest it if you want to read books like The Fault of Our Stars. Actually, these ones were out before The Fault of Our Stars, so that's probably why I don't read any John Green books, because they say he's original, but Lauren McDaniel writes a lot of love stories that involve people with cancer. So, yeah, that. Next one that made me cry is actually the two companion novels of Burned in Smoke by Ellen Hawkins. I don't have a physical copy of Burned with me because it's back at my parents' house, but what Jackie and Payne go through with their abusive alcoholic father really gets to me. How Jack, in this one, it turns out that Payne didn't kill her father and Jackie did, and how she goes on the run because she wants to protect her sister. She's still caring for her sisters even though, she got kicked out of her house. She had nowhere to go, and she's on the run to protect her sister who shot their father because their father beat them senseless, and he kept on telling Jackie, well, you can't shoot me, you're not brave enough. So she did, and it was really emotional, and I liked this book. I liked how Peyton, even though she didn't want to fall in love again, she did. But yeah, I'm actually going to show you the rest of these, because I'm going to go through them quickly, because I do have a limit on YouTube. And then these ones also, any Ellen Hawkins book makes me fall in love with the author. Tricks, I like Tricks because it was different. It was about prostitution, and some of these stories, especially with Adam, and I think her name was Eden. Yeah, especially with Eden. It was a tearjerker because she didn't deserve to go into prostitution. Basically, her mother only drugged her because she was in love with the wrong type of boy, and then sent her out, and then she pimped herself out so she could escape the institution her mother put her in. And then Ginger, I think her name was Ginger, only did prostitution because her mother did it, and guys are forcing themselves on her. So yeah, it was a very different side of prostitution that I haven't seen. So that book made me kind of emotional. Perfect. I don't know if it did make me emotional. It did have a few moments where it just made me kind of mad because of what happens in this book. I know there's a rape scene in it, and I know that Kara is dealing with her brother's death in this one, because it is a companion novel to Impulse, which I have back at my parents' house. I really need to get books back from my parents' house so I could actually give you the real list of books that made me cry. Tilt. Tilt only made me cry because of Michaela's story. That's the only reason I cried in that one, because every other character I didn't really like that much. And Rumble didn't make me cry. It made me mad because Hayden, I think, is one of the world's worst girlfriends ever. I really just wanted to hop in the book, slap her across the face, and say, shut the fuck up for once. Okay, I just want you to shut the fuck up. Can you do that for me? So, no, it didn't really make me... Well, it did make me emotional in parts when he was talking about his brother's suicide and how horrible people treated him, and how it was Hayden's fault for... Yeah, that's why I hated... Now I remember why I hated Hayden. It was actually her fault for his brother's suicide, because she told people who bullied him. So basically, she was responsible for him committing suicide. And I thought that was sad, and especially whenever, I can't even remember these people's names. Whenever Matthew got shot, yeah, that one made me kind of emotional. Okay, emotional. We're not done with the emotions. Can you believe it? Okay, next book is Shadowkiss by Rochelle Mead. Big shocker that this one was on the list, right? Shadowkiss made me bawl like a baby. The first time Rose and Dimitri made love is in this book. If you don't know me by now, I'm a huge Dimitri fan. I'm a huge Rose and And if you don't know who Romitri is, it's Rose and Dimitri. It's their ship name. So I'm a huge Rose and Dimitri fan. And then the attack on the school and Dimitri getting turned into Strigoi and dying really is just what set me off. Whenever I heard that he had gone attacked, whenever I read that he got attacked in this book by Strigoi and I thought he was dead, I literally threw my first copy, because this is actually my second copy, because my first copy got torn apart because of sitting in the sun for too long. Well, I threw the book to the wall and just refused to. I let myself bawl for a good hour, and then just picked up the book and said, okay, I could get through this. I could read it. There's still 3 more books in the series, so there has to be something more than this. And then we figured out that he didn't die. He got turned into Strigoi, which is something he never wanted in the first place. So yeah, that made me emotional, and that made me almost throw my book again. But I'm like, no, can't throw the book again. But no, I was just, at the end of this book, I felt so emotionally drained that I just started crying and crying. It was so beautifully written, and I loved it. Okay, sadly we're not almost done, I'm sorry it's taking so long. Okay, the next book I have here that's made me cry, is one you guys probably haven't heard of because it's an indie author, and that is The 13th Prophecy by H.M. Ward. I'm gonna get into a little bit why this book made me cry. Why this book made me cry was because my favorite character, Colin, had died trying to protect Ivy, and that made me bawl like a baby. It made me so emotional, and it was just gut-wrenching. It was just like a knife twisting in my gut because I have read about this couple, and I fell in love with this couple. This is a couple that deserves to belongs together like Rose and Dimitri. So whenever Colin died, I was sad. Whenever he came back to life, though, and she was in the underworld and stuff, I was happy about that. I was happy they got reunited. But this just made me bawl. And I loved Colin and Ivy's journey, and then whenever the book ended, I just cried because it was such a good series. It was probably one of my most favorite books besides Shadowkiss. So yeah, that one made me cry. Okay, next one that made me cry, just because it was the ending of the book, and that was The Ruby Circle by Richelle Mead. Like I said, it only made me cry because it's the end of the book, but I would like to talk about some of the points of the book that surprised me a little bit, that I kind of saw coming, but I kind of didn't. Like, did anyone else just sit there and bulk whenever they read that Adrien and Dimitri were cousins? I just was like, what? They're cousins? That would explain why he hates Avashkovs so much. It did explain why Dimitri hated them so much and why he didn't trust Adrien whatsoever. That surprised me. What also surprised me was when we found out that Dhampirs can have children with other Dhampirs if they're shadow-kissed. That made me... Not shadow-kissed, actually. It wasn't shadow-kissed. It was... What do you call that? I think it's spirit-bound. I don't even know. No, whenever spirit brings you back from the Strigoi state. So since Dimitri got brought back from being Strigoi, it made him able to have children with other Dhampirs. So Rose and Dimitri could have a child, and then at the end of it, Rose and Dimitri get engaged to each other, and I was so happy about that. I was kind of furious because we didn't get a Romitri wedding. We only got an engagement. So do you hear me, Richelle Mead? Do you hear me? Please write a Romitri wedding from your point of view. I would love to hear about that. I love all the Vampire Academy people to come back. Well, except Blissa, because she really annoyed me in this series like she did Vampire Academy. Okay, the next one actually made me cry, and that was The Darkest Minds by Alexandria Bracken. Where to start from why this made me cry so much? Ruby's situation definitely didn't help with the emotions. Clancy made me just want to fucking kill him all the time. The rape scene in this book, because there is a rape scene, it's implied that she got raped. We're not 100% sure if he did it or not, but that scene made me just, And then whenever Zoo left, I was bawling like a baby because Zoo and Ruby's friendship was just beautiful, and Chubbs getting shot just because what the letter said, that made me bawl like a baby. But what really made me just sit there, like, I was dry-eyed. It made me bawl, but it made me physically bawl. My boyfriend actually had to say if I was okay with this one. What happened was, whenever I was actually full-on sobbing, was whenever Ruby and Liam are talking about how their lives would be in a normal setting, and then she's gonna erase his memory, but he's not aware of it. And then when she does, and he just treats her like a stranger and just leaves, just like Liam style, I just cried. I bawled like a baby. And with this one, I'm not sure if I'm gonna read the second one, because it is a good standalone novel if you're into standalones. But this is actually a trilogy. Will probably read it as just a standalone, because I think it was a sufficient way to end this book. Okay, next one didn't really make me cry as much as it made me furious, and that was Tempted by Christian and PC Cast. The reason why I just lost it in this book was because Heath was one of my favorite characters in this book, and he died. He just I guess he was trying to save Zoe like he always does. He runs out to Kelowna, and Kelowna just like snaps his neck, and I'm like, no, Heath can't die. How the fuck do you kill Keith off, but you allow Stark to keep on living? I'm sorry. Whenever Stark died, I didn't give a shit. I don't care about Stark. I cared about Heath. And I know he comes back as Aerox, and I know that, but Heath's gone. Aerox is just the essence of Heath. Heath was Heath, and I loved Heath, and they killed him, and it made me so pissed that I didn't want to read any of the House of Night series. House of Night just made me fall out of love with it, and that's why it's so hard to read Redeemed right now, even though it's on my to-be-read list. I have like 30 books on my to-be-read list, guys, and I'm barely at Safe Haven, which is book number 3. But this one, definitely don't care if I lose this one or not. Next one is Shadow of Silence by Courtney Allison Moulton, and it is the third and final book in the Angel Fall series. Why it made me kind of cry, not full-on sobbing, was the fact that Will was dying throughout all of this, and Will and Ellie were a perfect couple in my eyes. And this one, whenever Will was dying and she was trying to find the cure for him, it made me emotional, but it didn't make me cry. So this one made me cry a little bit. This one was just emotional all around. It's my favorite contemporary novel to this day, and that is 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. If you don't know why this made me cry, then you obviously haven't read this book. It centers around a girl who has committed suicide and sends out these tapes about why she killed herself, and it's 13 people that made her want to kill herself. Not 13 reasons, but 13 people that made her just want to end it, and it made me emotional. It was really, really powerful. So if you read 13 Reasons Why yet, I suggest you do. It's a good book, and for you contemporary lovers, I swear that you will love it. Especially if you're into the hard-hitting subjects like suicide. Okay, I'm down to the last 2 books, guys. The next one I have isn't surprising. It's Blood Promise by Richelle Mead. It made me emotional because I didn't like that Dimitri was Strigoi. At the end, when Rose and Dimitri were having their fight scene, and Dimitri just falls off the bridge, and his last words to Rose's last words to him were, "I will always love you," and his last words were, "That's what I was supposed to say," and then he just falls to his death. I put death in air quotes because we all know Dimitri lived because he's in the Bloodline series. But this made me emotional. Spiritbound, I didn't want to pull Spiritbound from my bed, under my bed, but that one made me really, really pissed off. I hated Alyssa in it. I thought Dimitri was kind of a douchebag in it. I get it that he had just came back from being a Strigoi, and that really piles onto a person after they've killed so many people. And I got that, but him not letting Rose in after all that she went through really made me emotional, and it really made me want to punch something. And then the last and final one was a series that you may not have heard, but it's Demon Kissed by H.M. Ward. I held up the 13th Prophecy earlier, and this is the first one. This one just made me really fall in love with this series. There's a lot of good points to it. How Ivy was just thrown into something that she didn't want to be a part of. And it just was a whole roller coaster out of emotions. This whole story was. So, Demon Kiss series would definitely recommend. If anyone hasn't heard of it, I suggest you pick it up and read it, because it's not a waste of time. Alright guys, that ends the books that made me emotional. If you want me to read a book that will probably make me emotional, comment down below. By the way, Allegiant is being excluded from that list because Allegiant is such an obvious answer. I mean, spoiler alert, Triss dies. Sorry, so that made me bawl like a baby. I can't, and it also excludes The Fault in Our Stars, because The Fault in Our Stars, I already know Augustus dies. It dies, but it is on my TBR list, and I will be reading the book, and I will see if it makes me cry or not. So, thanks for listening, guys. I hope you have a nice night. Bye!